Many of you are probably asking yourself, what changes are you talking about? We are surrounded by an ever-changing world, and every day these changes are reflected in the way we do business, the way we practice our faith, and even the way we conduct ourselves in society. These changes not only affect us at an individual level, but also at a community and global level. It is amazing how we live in a world that is so dependent on change for its very survival and progression. And yet, we do not take the time to embrace it and understand how to deal with it in a way that helps support us towards opening new possibilities. It is my faith that this TV series will help bring forth concepts and theories regarding how to deal with change and the struggles that we experience day to day. Together, we will learn from industry professionals and resident experts how to use the tools that they have created specifically for these challenges. Together, we will explore these tools in hopes that we strengthen the connection between theory and reality. Today, we'll be exploring the concept of core values. What are they? Where do they come from? How are they formed? And how are they different from core passion or ethics? We have an amazing guest speaker on the show that will walk us through her life passion of helping others find theirs. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Lori-Ann Demers, Master Certified Coach. She is one of only 3 coaches to be shortlisted as a nominee for the prestigious Canadian Coach of the Year Award. Welcome to the show, Lori-Ann.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. So you've done some great work in your portfolio. You are the visionary of Core Alignment Coach Training Program, which is an accredited program. It's awesome. You've developed great coaching training programs for Wildwoods University and Erickson College. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started? What do you do now?
Sure. You know, one of the things is when you start talking about yourself, where do you start? Especially when you're a grandmother.
Yes.
So I think Jivi, I'll start about the late 80s, early 90s. I was working with large groups of people for an amazing organization in transformational development. It was a great honor to work with them. Yeah. And I was presenting around communication with this company to large groups of people. And as I went through that, I kept seeing that we were providing them this incredible dialogue of distinctions and tools to be effective in life, to be effective in the area of relationships and accomplishing goals. Okay. And then I would come back and meet these people again because always transformation is a process, not an event.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't about the one weekend. It was about how were things going later and what was needed next. Okay. And so I would see these people over the years and bump into some of them again, and they weren't acting on what they saw. And so I started to get very, very curious about that and want to work more one-on-one with people so that I could start to understand what has people not only have a philosophy or a distinction and some tools, what is it that has people act on that? Because that's really the only thing in this realm, it's action that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Right? With those backgrounds of philosophies and tools, it can be very powerful, but one without the other doesn't make it happen.
True enough.
So I decided to take a sabbatical, a year off, and it's amazing what can happen when you're quiet.
Yeah.
Right? When you be quiet and start to listen, all kinds of information that you need comes to you if you kind of put out an intention of what you're looking for.
And it's a really scary place to be, that quiet place. I know that sometimes if I'm sitting there quiet, because you have all these thoughts in your head that you normally don't have time to visit.
Yes.
And then when you're quiet, that's when all those thoughts come into your brain, right?
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Mine were tricky. They often came in the middle of the night, so I continued to argue with them because I thought I was supposed to be sleeping.
Yeah.
But when you're on a sabbatical, you can sleep during the day.
True
so it
enough.
doesn't matter.
True enough.
So finally I surrendered and started writing.
Yeah.
And started talking to people and inquiring and writing and looking at where does people's power to act come from? And I started to see that there's a place that there's kind of 2 places that it comes from. One is really knowing ourselves and honoring that knowing of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then second, it would be to have the tools and the things that we need to act on. But if we don't, one of my mentors many years ago, an elder in my community, said to me, Lorianne, the degree to which you put anyone else on a pedestal is the degree to which you get off the hook for making a difference.
That's great.
So we need to see ourselves eye to eye with the people that we admire.
True enough.
There's nothing wrong with admiring people and honoring them and giving them high regard.
Yeah.
But if we don't give that same level of honor and regard to ourselves, we aren't going to make the difference we're capable of.
So you said something really intriguing there. You said the words, you said surrender. So help me understand that a little bit more. Like, what do you mean that you surrendered? Because I think that's the key, right? Mm-hmm. The key is, when do you get into that acceptance of, okay, I have to deal with this? Mm-hmm. And then, so help me understand surrender a little bit more.
I think the best way I can say it is when you finally understand in life that it's not what you know that makes you great. Yeah. It's that you can get to a place where you know that you don't know.
Absolutely.
And that's where there's an opportunity to surrender to not knowing. Because the moment we do that, it doesn't mean we lose all that we know and all our intelligence. We couldn't lose that. But when we can surrender to not knowing the answers and to then exploring and discovering and revealing and unconcealing things, that's where magic can occur. Now, when we talk about the work that I do, which is around core value, or another way I say it, is core passion or core essence.
Okay.
So to me, those three words are the same.
Okay.
And I'm sure as we go along here, we'll kind of discuss more about what that means. But we think that our values are ours, that they belong to us. And certainly there are some values that as we've gone along in life, we've put together and said, I want to have this as a value.
Yeah.
But when I look at people remembering who they are, which is the work I do is called Remember Who You Are. Okay. Not discover who you are, remember who you are.
Yeah.
Then discover what you love that's aligned with that, and then be true to yourself.
Okay.
That's it in a nutshell. Everything I do, my coaching, my coach training, everything is about people remembering who they are first. Because as I said, when I watched people not taking action, I really needed to understand what was missing. And as I went through this year's sabbatical and talking to people and allowing information to come in, it became really obvious that it's that self-worth, that knowing who we are at the core, at our very core. I don't think that's learned. I think that's a gift that we were born with. So
it's that lifelong question of, is it nurtured or is it natured, right? And so your belief is that it's natured. Oh, both. Okay.
Both. I believe our core value is the one that we were born with.
Okay.
And it's our gift to humanity.
Okay.
And that's nature.
Okay.
And that you can see it as a very young child, between 0 and 3.
Okay.
That's what we're born with. And we forget what that is. Just by virtue of being in our communities and people trying to help out by saying, don't be shy, Jivi. Put yourself out there, right?
Absolutely.
And really, your nature is to be shy.
Yeah.
But we're trying to help you. So people direct us and steer us and guide us all for good.
Yeah.
All for love.
Yeah.
But not knowing that what's happening is then we're forgetting our spark, our core, our essence that we were born with. Okay. And trying to fit into a persona.
Wow. You know what, Lorianne, you bring up a really interesting point. I have a friend who, when she was younger, she loved to dance. She loved to be on stage. Just dancing was her thing as a child. And as she was growing up, everybody kept saying, oh, don't be silly. Yes. Don't be silly, right? And she's just being a kid. And she ended up in a very good role, an executive position, got her master's. And it's really funny that over these last couple of years, she's transferred back into going into acting and going into singing, and because that's what her thing is. Yes. And so when you, in layman's terms, like I always think, what's your thing? Yes. Like what totally drives you to be motivational, and what can you speak about just on the spur of the moment? Yes. Now, having said that, then there's the other side of me, the other side of the coin that says, if I value respect, like I would think to myself, okay, well, my value is respect. And I think, okay, well, how does that translate? So can you have a value that's something that's, you know, I really love to dance and play, I love to be on stage, and then a value that says, well, I just value respect?
Yes.